Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Shane with Guys at Magic, and today I'm joined by Hunter. He'll be upgrading Rebellion Rising. Isn't that right, Hunter?
That is correct.
We're both very excited about this set, I guess you can call them. No, just the two decks coming out. We're very excited about these. So we gave you $100, and you're going to upgrade the base set, and I kind of want to jump into it. So tell me about the deck and tell me what commander you're picking.
Yes, the deck is Rebellion Rising, and we are going to go ahead and stick with the face commander. That is going to be Neyali Sun's Vanguard. Neyali Sun's Vanguard is 2, a red and a white, for a 3/3 legendary creature human rebel. It says attacking tokens you control have double strike. And whenever one or more tokens you control attack a player, exile the top card of your library. During any turn you attack with a token, you may play that card. So the cool thing about our commander is, obviously, all of our tokens have double strike. Fantastic. That's the
Yeah,
name
it
of the
sucks.
game. We are winning with combat damage.
Combat damage and going super wide because you somehow always get tokens in your decks, dude. I
That,
don't get it.
that's it, man. I do the upgrades for the token
Yeah,
players.
you're
You're
just you're a
welcome,
token boy.
everybody. Yeah, so not only that, the cool thing about this card is our cards that we exile every time we attack with one of our tokens, they don't go away. So you can play them on other turns because as long as you attack with a token, you can play those cards for whatever, essentially.
Nice. So
Yeah.
that's actually pretty cool.
The other commander that was in this set was Othari Sun's Glory. Real quick, I'll just go ahead and give it a rundown. This is Othari Sun's Glory is 3, a red and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature Phoenix. It has flying, lifelink, and haste, and it says whenever it attacks, you get an experience counter. Then you create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. And it has another ability where you can pay 2, a red and a white, tap and untap rebel you control, and return Othari from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Now, that is an awesome card. Don't
It
get me
is.
wrong. Really cool card. Was really thinking about building this as the face commander of the deck until I saw the deck itself. And the deck really, really wants to just create tokens itself. And it doesn't really go on theme with what Othari wants to do because it just wants to make its own 2/2s. So, Othari is going to be sitting in the deck. I'm not getting rid of Othari. Great card. You can definitely build around that as a commander itself. But in this specific precon, we are sticking with Neyali.
And I feel like that's just the exact deck you'd be playing, so you picked a good commander, bud.
Absolutely.
Well, with your $100 budget, you want to just jump in and talk about some of the new cards you're adding?
Yeah, so let's go over the additions. First things first, I like to go through the main set and pick out cards that really fit inside the precon itself. So these couple of cards on the screen right now are the 2 cards that I'm taking out of the main set, throwing them into the precon to make it better. This first one, Urabrask's Forge. Urabrask's Forge is 2 and a red for an artifact. It says the beginning of combat on your turn, put an oil counter on Urabrask's Forge, then create an X1 red fire X horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on Urabrask's Forge. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. Obviously, with our commander, we're going to be making those little X1 tokens every single combat, and they get double strike, and they already have trample. So eventually, once it gets to turn 3 or 4 after they pass this, you're getting in for 6 and 8 trample damage, essentially.
That's really stupid, dude. This card's
It's re-
perfect for the deck,
it is so perfect. When this was first spoiled after they had announced this deck, I was like, that's going in, obviously.
obviously.
The other card I'm adding in is White Sun's Twilight. White Sun's Twilight cost X and 2 white for a sorcery. It says you gain X life, create X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens. The toxic one, and this creature can't block. And if X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So the great thing about White Sun's Twilight is that it has so many of these different things that you can do with it. Not only can you gain however much mana you add into it with life, you can also create that many creature tokens that have toxic. So not only do your creature tokens have double strike, these ones specifically have toxic, meaning alternate win con. So you can
Yeah, so
give a bunch of people poison for however much they hit because of double strike. Toxic one essentially turns into toxic two. You're
that's what I
putting
was gonna
on 2
say.
poison counters on people.
Super, super mean, dude. was gonna say toxic and double strike is a really, really mean combo.
Yeah. And if X is 5 or more, you destroy everything but the creatures you just made, which is a plus.
So it's a very, very flexible card in this deck.
Oh, 100%. It's like I said about the last card, it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, these are two great additions, dude. So you looked at the core set coming out, but you extended your lens, I'm sure. And what are some other cards you want to put in this deck?
Yeah, so here are some creatures that just kind of fit into the deck. This first one, Sky Knight Vanguard. Sky Knight Vanguard is red and white for a 1/2 creature human knight. It has flying. It says whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token that's tapped and attacking. So, a little evasion with the little flying, and then it comes in, our commander's out. That 1/1 now has double strike, hitting for 2 damage. Krenko Tin Street Kingpin is going into the deck. It is 2 and a red for a 1/2 legendary creature goblin. It says whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krenko's power. So we're just going to keep flooding our board with a bunch of goblins. And another creature that I'm adding in here is Archetype of Aggression. Archetype of Aggression is 1 and 2 red for a 3/2 enchantment creature human warrior. It says creatures you control have trample, and creatures your opponents control lose trample and can't have or gain trample. I really wanted a way to throw in trample into this deck. This creature was the best way I could probably do it with the budget that I had, and we are eliminating the possibility for our opponents to get in with trample damage as well. So our little 1/1s can just chump block if we really need them to.
These all seem like really good inclusions, dude. Especially if you don't have Urbrask's Forge on the field. Now you have another way for all your tokens to get trample. Pretty good, dude.
Yeah, giving all of our creatures trample with double strike is amazing.
So do you have any other cards you want to put in here that maybe some bigger boys?
Yeah, so these next couple are just a little more creatures with a little more oomph to really, really make our tech go a little crazier. This first one, Battle Angels of Tyr. Battle Angels of Tyr is 2 and 2 white for a 4/4 creature angel knight. That's flying and myriad. If you don't know what myriad is, here's a reminder. Every time you attack an opponent with Battle Angels of Tyr, you make a token that's a copy of Battle Angels of Tyr attacking all of your other opponents. So, because those are tokens, those are getting double strike commanders on the field. And it states whenever Battle Angel of Tyr deals combat damage to a player, draw a card if that player has more cards at hand than each other player. Then you create a treasure token if that player controls more lands than each other player. Then you gain 3 life if that player has more life than each other player. So, those other tokens that we're creating attacking our opponent, they're going to trigger twice if they get in with the double strike. So there's going to be a lot of triggers happening for Battle Angels of Tyr.
Dude, Myriad is an insane keyword for this deck.
It really is, man, because you feel bad for the opponents that you're not initially attacking.
You're like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be, but I have to be.
You're attacking the one opponent that you know you're going to get in with damage, and then the other opponents just take the tokens that might have double strike.
Yikes.
Speaking of Myriad, we're also adding Elturel Survivors. Elturel Survivors is 3 and a red for a 0/4 creature tiefling peasant. It has trample and Myriad, so bonus keyword with trample there. And as long as Ethereal Survivors is attacking, it gets +X+0, where X is the number of lands defending player controls. So, once again, those double striking tokens of Ethereal Survivors is going to be hitting hard late game, depending on how many lands your opponents have.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope I just miss all my land drops.
That wouldn't be ideal for you if you're playing
That's
against me.
true. That's true.
Another one we're adding is Morag, Fury of Akom. Morag, Fury of Akom is 4 and 2 red for a 6/6 legendary creature, Minotaur Warrior. It says each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it attacked this turn. Well, that doesn't make any sense, except it does when this also has landfall that says whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of combat, untap all creatures you control. So we can actually put in lands in this deck that can crack and fetch. That counts as 2 more combats.
That's stupid.
It's pretty cool, man. So our double striking tokens are going to be doing damage, damage, damage. And if we have our trample enabler out, we're getting a lot of damage through.
Yeah.
Final creature we're adding in here is Ioris, God of Victory. It is 2, a red and a white for a 7/4 legendary enchantment creature god. It has indestructible. It says as long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Ioris isn't a creature, and creatures you control have menace. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. A perfect card to go into this deck.
Yeah, I mean, another stupid keyword, menace.
Menace, and our creatures just no longer take damage when we attack with them.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
keeping
Good
them
card, dude.
around. Absolutely.
So we saw a bunch of cool creatures that either create tokens or give them crazy keywords, but do you have anything going in here that's going to be making some tokens for you?
I certainly do. So these 3 on the screen right here are the ones that I'm adding to make additional tokens. This first one is Entreat the Angels. It is X, X, and 3 white for a sorcery that says create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying, but it also has a miracle cost of X and 2 white, meaning you can cast this card for its miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you drew this turn. So just get a whole bunch of cool, awesome 4/4 angels with flying, swing in with double strike. They're going to be hitting for 8.
Whatever you do, just check the card before you draw it.
Yeah. Don't hold your hand in one hand, draw it with the other. If you grab it, you got to show it if
Yep.
you want to use that miracle cost.
Really, really good card, though, for this dude.
Super good. This other card, Secure the Wastes. X and a white, an instant, put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Another fantastic way just to flood the board so quickly. You can even do this on right before your turn and get a whole bunch of 1/1s ready to go. And just one more card that makes additional tokens is one of my favorites from the last couple of sets. It's from New Capenna. This is Rabble Rousing. Rabble Rousing is 4 and a white for an enchantment. It has a hideaway of 5. So if you don't remember what hideaway is, it's when this enchantment enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. It states whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, create that many 1/1 white and green citizen creature tokens. Then if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So for however many tokens or creatures we attack with, we make that many 1/1s. And it just keeps doubling and doubling and doubling for however long we just keep attacking.
Yeah, that's not broken or anything.
Rabble Rousing is a fantastic card.
Yeah. So we saw the cards that are going to be making some tokens. What about something that's going to be bolstering up these tokens? You got anything for us?
Yeah, I added a couple cards in here just to make tokens just a little bit better. Maybe a little bit protection, maybe just a bit stronger. First card, Unbreakable Formation. It's an instant that costs 2 and a white. It says creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And the other clause on this card says if you cast this spell during your main phase, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. So just bolstering up our creatures if it's our main phase and we cast this, or if there's a board wipe coming, just give them all indestructible.
Yeah, it's very versatile, dude.
The other card I'm adding is Cathar's Crusade, one of the better enchantments in any token deck. It costs 3 and 2 white enchantment. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So this gets pretty out of hand pretty quickly when you're making a whole bunch of tokens.
Yeah, I think I've seen you run this in almost all your token decks, and I hate it.
Yeah, they get wide and they get massive.
Do you have any other cards you were adding to this deck?
I certainly do. I'm adding one Planeswalker into the deck. It is probably the best token creation Planeswalker in my opinion. That is Elspeth Sun's Champion. It costs 4 and 2 white. It has a +1 ability that just says put 3 1/1 white creature tokens onto the battlefield. It has a -3 that says destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, and a -7 that says you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. And don't forget, Elspeth starts with a starting loyalty of 4. So that +1, it's really just super powerful for our deck. Keep going at it. +1, +1, +1. 3 more, 3 more, 3 more creatures. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I feel like this is the white weenie planeswalker for sure.
Yeah. Elspeth's Son's Champion. Fantastic inclusion.
Well, all those cards are looking fantastic. Did you do anything to the mana base though?
Yeah, I just added 2 lands. The first land I added is Spectator Seating. That's just a bond land, so it says it enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Taps for red or white. Of course, we're playing Commander, so it's going to come in untapped pretty much every single time. I'm also adding a Fabled Passage in here. Not only does it fix our mana base, but with Morag on the field, that landfall trigger happens twice, giving us an additional 2 combats.
That's just great synergy, man.
Yep. Fabled Passage, again, tap it, go search your library for basic land. Put on the battlefield tapped. But if you control 4 more lands, it comes in untapped.
Well, I'm loving the deck so far, dude. We're gonna do the part that we don't enjoy doing, and that is talking about all the cuts. We gotta make room for all those cool cards. So, what are you cutting?
Yeah, so this is the sad part. Getting rid of some of the cards that might be good, but also just some cards that aren't very good at all. So the first one I'm getting rid of is Phantom General. Phantom General is 3 and a white for a 2/3 creature spirit soldier. It says creature tokens you control get +1/+1. That's great. That's fine. But Cathar's Crusade just is that much better. And this doesn't do anything to the other creatures that we have. It's just creature tokens. So get in the axe. Another one is Harmonious Archon. Harmonious Archon is 4 and 2 white for a 4/5 creature Archon. Got flying. It says non-Archon creatures have a base power and toughness 3/3. And whenever Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. Um, so it does make our tokens bigger if they're not 3/3s, but it also just destroys anything that's over a 3/3. So this is getting the axe. It's 6 mana as well, so goodbye to Harmonious Archon. Another creature that's getting the axe is Mere Battlesphere. Mere Battlesphere is 7 generic mana for a 4/7 artifact creature Mire Construct. It says when it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless Mere artifact creature tokens. And whenever Mere Battlefield attacks, you may tap X untapped Mirror you control. If you do, Mere Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to player or planeswalker it's attacking. Guess what? This is the only mirror maker in the deck. So once the mirrors are gone, this doesn't get the buff. So for 7 mana, this is getting the axe immediately.
Makes sense. All right. Well, do you got any more cards that just aren't doing it for you?
Yeah, so these cards on the screen right now I just didn't really feel the need for them in the deck. First one, Hour of Reckoning. That is 4 and 3 white for a sorcery. It's got a convoke, which means your creatures can help cast the spell. Destroy all non-token creatures. Yeah, I get it. We're a token deck, and destroying everything but non-tokens is great. But I did add the other card in here that was a board wipe as well, which was White Sun Zenith, which also, if I paid the 5, is 7 mana. So 7 mana card for a 7 mana card seems good to me, and it did more than just destroy everything. So this one's getting the axe. Battle Screech is another card that's also not making the cut. It is 2 and 2 white for a sorcery. It says create 2 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying. And has a flashback to tap 3 untapped white creatures you control, so you can cast it from your graveyard. For 4 mana to create 2 1/1s. I mean, I get that they have flying, but there's just better uses we can do with that 4 mana. Hate Mirage, 3 and a red for a sorcery, says choose up to 2 target creatures you don't control. For each of those creatures, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a cool card in concept. You're making a token of your opponent's best thing, you hope, but it's not killing those creatures. You're losing those creatures. They just gain haste. It's, again, for 4 mana, there's better options. And another card we're getting rid of is Gold Warden's Gambit. That is 6 and 2 red for a sorcery. It does have affinity for equipment. Believe it or not, there was a ton of equipment in this deck for some reason. I get it. We're trying to buff our tokens. It says create 5 2/2 red rebel creature tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. For each of those tokens, you may attach an equipment you control to it. So, pretty cool. But I look at it like this. Worst case scenario, I have this in my opening hand right off the rip for 8 mana, sticking around for a very long time, and I just want to be able to play other cards. So this one is getting the axe.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. Stuff that is just gonna sit around your hand and gum up your hand. Might as well just get it out there and add better cards in, yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So, after all that, are we taking out anything else like artifacts?
Yeah, so right off the rip, for this being a token deck, there was 18 artifacts in it,
Jeez.
which seems absolutely insane to me. So we are getting rid of some of those artifacts because we put in better spells that make more tokens. So this first one we're getting rid of is Maul of the Skyclaves. Maul of the Skyclaves 2, a white artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attached to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has flying and first strike. First strike is irrelevant if our tokens have double strike. So you're just paying 3 to attach it to get +2/+2 and flying, which isn't terrible, but at the same time also doesn't help anything else besides the one token. So it is getting the axe. It does have an equip cost of 2 and 2 white as well, which just in general just isn't doing it for me. I'm also getting rid of Soul Guide Lantern, which is 1 generic mana for an artifact. This is when it enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. You can tap it, sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern, exile each opponent's graveyard. You can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern to draw 1 card. I have no idea why this was in the deck. My only assumption is the other Precon deck might have a little bit of recursion. Shane, could you?
Yeah, it's got some built-in recursion. Not too much, but it might be in there for that.
Yeah, I mean, sacrificing this to draw 1 card maybe is good, but our deck actually had a pretty decent amount of card draw to start with. So Soul Guide Lantern was just kind of in there just as a card, and I just thought it could get the boot.
Yeah, that's understandable, man.
Full Shock Factory, also a brand new card that's getting the axe. It is 2 and a red for an artifact. You can tap it to add a red and put a charge counter on Full Shock Factory. You can also pay 2 and a red, tap it, sacrifice Volshak Factory, create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token with haste, where X is the number of charge counters on Volshak Factory. Activate only as a sorcery. So yeah, this is a mana rock that eventually makes a giant creature, but we have every single great mana rock in the deck already. And that includes Soul Ring, Mind Stone, the Signet, our Talisman, Arcane Signet. Yeah, we had all the major mana rocks that are in Boros. So Full Shock Factory, while it's a cool card, it's just getting the boot.
Yeah, these decks had insane mana rocks. I was very impressed. Is there anything else you got to get rid of to make some room?
Yeah, so after cutting all those cards, it starts to get a little bit dicey when it's looking at cards. You're like, oh, what should I cut? But these next 3, I felt like kind of just didn't fit. Hordeling Outburst. Hordeling Outburst is 1 and 2 red for a sorcery. Create 3 1/1 goblin creature tokens. I get it. It makes 3 goblins. Basically 1 for each mana. But that's it. It's a sorcery too, so I don't know. Just seemed a little too slow in my opinion. And the other cards that we added in here are just strictly better.
I mean, you added Secure the Waste, so I think that's probably a better upgrade.
Absolutely. Gold Knight Commander also getting the axe here is 3 and a white for a 2/2 creature human cleric soldier. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. 4 mana for a 2/2. I mean, it creatures get +1/+1 till end of turn. It's just not doing it. We're adding again. Cathar's Crusade is just better.
Yeah, unless you're flickering, this is kind of just like, eh.
Cut a Deal also getting the axe is 2 and a white sorcery. Each opponent draws a card. Then you draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. This has been being played in more as a budget card in a lot of mono white decks or just splashing white in general. But I have been on record saying I do not like helping my opponents. And if I'm letting them draw cards, I'm helping them. So I'm not cutting the deal here.
Man, no deals being cut with you. Got it. I'll understand. So you also added a Planeswalker? Are you pulling out a Planeswalker? What are you doing here?
I am actually swapping them out 100%. So they had Elspeth Tyrell in the deck. That is 3 and 2 white for starting loyalty of 4. It had a +2 that said you gain 1 life for each creature you control. It has a -2 that says put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. And a -5, destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens. A +1 is way better than a -2.
I would agree with you.
So we are swapping Elspeth for Elspeth strictly because the other Elspeth is just better. I know the other Elspeth just costs 1 extra mana, but that 1 extra mana is just obviously a better card. That Elspeth is better than this Elspeth, so goodbye.
Completely understandable, man. And you also added some lands, so are you taking any lands out to even it out?
Yeah, I am changing the land counts. I'm going down 1 land. It started off with 38, so we are going down to 37, and the lands we are taking out. Temple of the False God, get it gone. You didn't know, you tap it to add 2 colorless mana. Wow, that sounds great, but you can only activate only if you control 5 or more lands. If you get this in your opening hand, it does absolutely nothing, so it is gone.
Bye-bye.
Windbrisk Heights is another card that I'm getting rid of. It is a land that has Hideaway 4. I spoke to you guys about Hideaway before. That is okay. I don't like it on lands because I don't have an option not to do the Hideaway. So it enters the battlefield tapped. I can tap it for a white. I can also pay a white, tap it, and you can play the exile card without paying its mana cost. If you attack with 3 or more creatures this turn, it can activate pretty simply with the amount of tokens we're making, but I just don't want to hide it away, and it comes in tapped, so going away. And the last land that I'm cutting is Myriad Landscape. Again, this enters the battlefield tapped. I can tap it to add a colorless, or I can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type, put on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. I get it. Myriad Landscape's always about mana ramp, but it has never been one of my favorite lands ever, and I feel like I always cut it in every single one of my decks. Fabled Passage is just way better to go find a land. I know you can go get 2 with Myriad, but comes in tap. It's just slow.
I'm with you, dude. I think I cut it every time as well. Well, dude, I think the deck's looking pretty strong. For a token strat that wants to be double striking and killing with combat damage, I think you've put together a pretty mean list. Got any other final closing words for the people?
So we do these $100 upgrades with the idea of spending $100. So if you went ahead and went out and bought all of the additions from this video today, at the time of recording this video, your total would be $99.45. So I got to hit that perfectly. I'm really proud of how this deck runs. You guys will see it in a deck battle soon. It's going to be pretty wild. You'll see how this deck hums. It did a lot of work. If you guys want to check out this deck list, if you guys want to see how it hums, you can play test it. The Moxfield link is down in the description below. I really suggest trying it out. It is a lot of fun. I think this deck is awesome. Can't wait to actually pick it up on paper and try it. And of course, I would love to hear any of you guys' feedback. So if you want to leave a comment down below, letting me know what you think of this deck, what things you would have added, what things you would have changed, please let me know. I would love to hear it.
Well, don't forget to like and subscribe to Guys at Magic. You don't want to miss any of this upcoming content. Hunter is going to be putting together a $300 upgrade for this same deck, so you definitely don't want to miss that. Down in the description, you'll find, like Hunter said, the Moxfield. You also find links to all of our socials. That's our Instagram, our Twitter, our TikTok. It's all just going to be at Guys at Magic. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Later.